We celebrate a former president who God has allowed to turn 100 years old. Over a year and a half in hospice. I wish I had somebody that dealt with somebody that went to hospice, came home, did hospice came to him, and he's still alive and pressing on with the desire to vote for Kamala Harris. Wow. And so who is this Jimmy Carter? Well, he's our 39th president. And what he's famous for is that he pardoned the draft evaders that you all know during the Vietnam War. After the Vietnam War, they wanted the people that evaded the draft by going to Canada or hiding or saying that they had ankle spurs. That's another good one. Is that he pardoned them, a blanket pardon. Then he's also known for the Camp David Accords. And the Camp David Accords is where he allowed for peace with Egypt and Israel to take place. And now, ironically, we're doing this on the same day that now Iran and Egypt and Israel, I mean, they're trying to escalate it. And that's only because Bibi Netanyahu really wants to have an escalated war because he wants Trump to get involved. He wants Trump to win the election and wipe out the Palestinians. That's what he wants. And so, again, for those of us who are concerned about the Palestinian issue, as am I, but it is without a question, she is the better candidate, and so is Biden and anybody else but this person. You ought to ask yourself, if Putin wants him and Bibi Netanyahu wants him, that's a problem. It's on Facebook. Thank you all. And so then he was a Sunday school teacher, a Sunday school teacher. So he's known for that and always wanted to get back on Saturday night to be able to teach Sunday school. And he did Habitat for Humanity. That's one of his famous things. But to go with how I started, he wrote a book after he was president that reflected his views. And the book is called Peace, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. This is required reading. This is from Jimmy Carter, who negotiated the Camp David Accords. So again, Palestine, peace, not apartheid. And in that aspect, he begins to liken Israel's treatment of the Palestinians the way the Afrikaners were treating the blacks in South Africa. Powerful, powerful statement. And do you know what his reward that he got for expressing those type of views? Anybody? What was his reward? I'm now pushing mine out. I'll tell you.
He only served one term.
There
right.
you go.
That's all you said. Not being reelected.
He wasn't reelected. That was his reward. And so for those who want to sit back and say, Biden is look, this is complicated. And yes, we concern ourselves with all type of life. And these people are turned over in gymnastics and all of that and saying, I ain't going to do this. Well, when somebody did say something and called it out, he paid the price. And then after that, we got Ronald Reagan. And it was manipulated still with the Iran hostage aspect. So you begin to see all of this mess that took place. But what's interesting is I'm going to hasten and I want to do a history lesson for us to see that you are in a Kairos moment. And Kairos means a pregnant moment. It means a moment that's full of possibility. It's not Chronos, it's not TikTok, but it is full of imagery. So when we're having today the vice presidential debate, while it is in New York City, it's in New York City. But on the Democratic side, you have a vice president candidate from Minnesota. And I don't know if you know that Minnesota is the home of vice presidents. You got Hubert Humphrey there and Walter Mondale. Walter Mondale was Jimmy Carter's vice president. And you all remember that when Walter Mondale then ran for president, even though he lost, his vice president was a woman who was Geraldine Ferraro. Do y'all see that? It's a Kairos moment. And the first debate, the first vice presidential debate was between Walter Mondale and Robert James Dole from Kansas. I just want y'all to see this symmetry. I do believe in things can be symmetric and being able to do something, to reveal something, to let us know we are in a significant moment. Again, as I said, a Kairos moment, a God moment, a pregnant moment. And Walter Mondale wrote what's called the Mondale Memo. The Mondale Memo. And in that, that's where he outlined, because Herbert Humphreys and Hubert Humphreys, excuse me, and other vice presidents have forever been pushed aside. It was Walter Mondale that says, it was a 7-page memo that he wrote to, not John F. Kennedy, Johnson, Lyndon Baines Johnson. He was Lyndon Baines Johnson's vice president. Herbert Humphreys was Lyndon Baines Johnson's vice president. And so he was a mentor of Walter Mondale and told Walter Mondale what to tell Gerald Ford, who Mondale was the vice president for, and told him what he wanted to be treated. And hence you got the monthly meetings and the same briefings on all information. They're not kept in the dark. And for those of y'all who don't know, even though the person to use the atomic bomb, sadly, came from Missouri, Independence, Missouri, that's Harry S. Truman, he didn't even know it was being done because FDR kept him out, kept him out of the loop. Prior to Mondale, vice presidents didn't do nothing, didn't know nothing. So many of us think about Dick Cheney. That's because you had George W. Bush there in that regard. So that's what I wanted us to see, is that think about this idiot, the 46th president of the 45th president, 46th president of the United States. 45th, which one is he? Forget it. 46 minus 1.
45th.
45th. The 45th president of the United States. And you juxtapose him to all of them. Maybe the worst could have been Andrew Jackson. But then on this day for us to meet the 39th president celebrating 100 years of life. God has been good to him, and he has been good to people down in Simple Plains, Georgia, where he's now trying to make some stuff. So let's get started. I wanted to go national, but I'm gonna narrow in. I want to look at some definition of terms. There's a term called conflation. Conflation. Conflation refers to the merging or combining two distinct concepts, ideals, or issues into one, often causing confusion or misunderstanding. That is conflation. Conflation. Nuance involves recognizing and considering subtle differences, details, and complexities in a given context. And then we have sovereignty. Sovereignty refers to a state's supreme power or authority to govern itself without external interference. It includes the ability to make laws, execute them, and adjudicate disputes within the territory that it controls. Lastly, separation of powers. Separation of powers is a governance principle that divides government's responsibilities into the executive, the legislative, and judicial branches to prevent any branch from gaining too much power. You said, well, Pastor, why do we need that? Why do we need need to know about conflation and nuance and sovereignty and separation of power because, as you know this, it allows you to be able to engage in civic discourse. It allows you to be able to blow the whistle on some of the stuff, even of people that we like and know and love are saying, because sometimes we are conflating issues. Sometimes we are combining them. Sometimes it needs a little nuance. And sometimes we're comparing apples to oranges. And yes, they're both fruit, but they are different. Pastor Lacey, what do you mean by that? I'm gonna go right on in, and I'm gonna let you participate when we look at our current events, and I'm gonna get to the biggest one, but because we didn't get to hit this last week, but we're talking about the aspect of Springfield, Ohio. And that issue is really about immigration. But the Republican, well, particularly J.D. Vance and the Republican want to make it about Haitian immigration, about Haitian cannibalism. But that's their the other way to try to do it. Like, they're eating dogs, they're eating the pets, and they know it's a lie and keep on saying it and double down on it. But the real issue is immigration. It ain't Haiti. The real issue that you want to talk about is immigration. But the pointed issue that you're hitting to is immigration from shithole nations like Haiti. That's what it is. I will say that one. I didn't say the other word. Y'all thank God I didn't. so for that's that. And then we had in Missouri an execution of Marcellus Williams. Basically being proven that the information that is leading to his death is likely wrong. They said, well, no, you just ran out of time. And you just murdered a black man. State murder and execution. State murder. Because you ran out of time. Just think about that. Just think about that. In basketball and in football and in golf, the referees come together and they begin to take a look. And sometimes they say, put some more time back on the clock. But when your life matters and you black, good night. And then I said the other day that in the state of Montana, Kamala Harris is left off the absentee ballots. And they said it's an accident. And now the other term I could put into there is called ubiquitous. Ubiquitous. And that means something is everywhere. But when you look at the terms that I've talked about, conflation and nuance and sovereignty and separation of powers, sometimes we just conflate all of these things into the same, but they're not the same. You have to be able to engage in this in an aspect of some type of nuance. That means it's a subtle difference because while the main character likely in all of this stuff are those that are MAGA Republicans, likely don't know. But one state is Ohio, one state is Missouri, one state is Montana. And a lot of times we say, well, I can't believe that they did that there in Montana and they're not doing it in here in New York. Well, because Montana is different than New York. Ohio is different than Illinois. California is different than Georgia. And that's the point that we see. However, there can be a ubiquitousness of white supremacy that can take place. But you got to have the nuance to be able to say that, because if we don't say it right, then you actually sound like an idiot. And nobody wants to sound like an idiot because we conflate stuff. Because the separation of powers lets us know. And here I'm going to the issue now. And this is what I'm talking about, this conflation. And in New York City, you got a mayor who is charged with 5 felonies. 5 felonies that date back to activity going back as far as back to 2016 when he was borough president. And the reason why I gotta say something, because every time he's speaking at a church. Y'all know where he ain't speaking. Y'all know that. You know, he might say amen to that because he never came. He was there for he was there for my installation, but that was 2014. So that was before the corruption started.
No, the corruption actually started in 2014. Because
Okay.
they went back as far as 2014.
2014. 2014. And Andrew Yang told us in every position he's been investigated. And so now we want to have a different standard. See, that's why I brought up all of those things in different states. And each time you're dealing with a different position in the state, and people have different responsibilities. You got legislators, and legislators are different from governors, those that govern, those that are part of the executive branch. And executive branch are those that make decisions. Legislators basically execute what the executive branch has determined, and then the judicial branch determines whether or not it was fair or not. That's what ends up happening. And so now there's a conversation about Menendez, and also even George Santos, of people who served in office. Now, George Santos, because he belongs to a body, the body has a right and a privilege to determine whether or not your membership is. Now, you also will be reminded that that same body neglected Adam Clayton Powell because they didn't like his behavior, and they rejected him. He ran against himself and won again and came back and won the Supreme Court. He was placed that they couldn't throw him out. George Santos threatened to sue, but nonetheless, he was thrown out. But Menendez, he got what, gold bars, cash in the refrigerator, and all this other kind of stuff, favors and all of that. And the issue that people are saying is that, well, why should our mayor step down if this person waited till he was convicted? Well, first of all, it's in the state of New Jersey. And those of us who live in New York, is there a difference between New York and New Jersey? Come on, somebody.
Yes.
Yes. Now, ain't nobody saying I live in the tri-state unless you live in Connecticut. You said and guess what? Those of us who live in New York say I live in Brooklyn, I live in Queens. It is because there's something, and I ain't saying like the mystique about it, but the Constitution can be different. How laws are taking place can be different. And again, I'm not denying white supremacy is ubiquitous. But what I'm saying is we have to learn how to not conflate what happens to a United States senator in another state with what happens to a mayor in a city. Those are total different jurisdictions. Different people see that. And that's what we want to be able to say. Now it requires nuance for you to say, I do believe in white supremacy, and it can, but in this case, it's a different situation. It is a different situation. And for those of us that are concerned about this, Elizabeth sent me something and said, what's in the water in New York? When you began to look at all of these people surrounded by this man that are resigning. And today he gave a press conference. Mr. who looks like he's coming out with a mixtape. You know, if you're coming out with a mixtape, that means you got an entourage. He was all by himself. So again, Edward Caban, the police commissioner, resigned. Lisa Zorberg, the chief counsel, resigned. Ashwin Vasan, the health commissioner, resigned. David Banks, the school chancellor, resigned. And Timothy Pearson resigned today. Yeah, today. The senior advisor of public safety. Wow. And we're supposed to say, what's going on? Go ahead, Christopher.
Let's not forget, last year, Keyshawn Sewell,
yes,
police commissioner, resigned.
That's
earlier
correct.
This year. Mark Kavanaugh, fire commissioner, resigned.
Yes. I was just naming
something's afoot.
And people can resign from administrations, but nonetheless, They see something. And that's something I want us to know. I don't want us to be exploited. And of course, a person is always innocent until proven guilty. But I just don't, I want us to engage in the nuance instead of conflation. Because some people were saying, and I joked with y'all, I said, you didn't see me at that press conference. I wasn't out there protesting, and nor was I behind him supporting him. Because I'm a nuanced person. Let me see what these facts, let me slow down. But when people get in the heat, one of the presenters that was in front of him opened up her mouth and said she was glad that they had stop and frisk. Okay? Did y'all hear that? Did anybody hear that but me? Did you, anybody? Can I get an amen? Can I get a, none of y'all heard that? Yeah, I watch everything. I'm gonna have to prove myself, I'm gonna have to show it. But I'm glad he had stop and frisk, because people need to be locked up. Because she was yelling at Hawk, you know.
We didn't see you. We didn't see you in the crowd, sir. So we didn't.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah, no, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I wasn't gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. And because I don't believe in that. And that's called caping and covering. And then our caping and covering is conflating about what somebody else did. Well, Donald Trump has done this. Why ain't Donald Trump in jail? Donald Trump can be charged with some of the same things, but guess what? Donald Trump had a Supreme Court to look out for him. That's what he had. Donald Trump had a Supreme Court to be able to do that. That is that process. And he had that plan to be able to go there. But you can't seek to do this because some people are in jail for what you are accused of. And that's one of our challenges that we began to look up, and they said, are they picking on him? And remember, that's why he was quiet the second time, because first he says, the government, I mean, really, you think Joe Biden is picking on him because migrants are coming into New York City? He insults your intelligence to be able to do that. But some people say, I know it sounds unfair, but yes, the governor can remove him. And you got to make a reasoned thought as that's what you want. The same way we wanted a reasoned thought as to Trump being impeached or George Santos being removed. Whether we get our way or not, you still can express an opinion on it. And in 1932, the mayor of New York City, Jimmy Walker, he was corrupt, in charge of Tammany Hall. And that was during the era of Prohibition. So a lot of times, you know, the speakeasies, and the mayor is running the crime syndicate out of Tammany Hall, out of City Hall. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whom we say is one of our greatest presidents, and he served as a president of New York, he said he was going to remove him. He was going to remove him, and only on the words that, because that's what the Constitution says, the New York State Constitution. Only because of that did Jimmy Walker resign, only with the pressure. The New York City chapter, the New York City charter says this: the mayor may be removed from office by the governor upon charges, and after service upon him, a copy of the charges and an opportunity to be heard in his defense. Pending the preparation and disposition of charges, the governor may suspend the mayor for a period not exceeding 30 days. The governor can put the mayor on probation for 30 days, according to the city charter. And it doesn't say he has to be convicted. I mean, again, how often have we seen police officers? Now, let's be clear. This guy now wants to cry mercy, but wanted to lock up homeless people for being on the streets.
But Pastor, I think the governor is scared. Okay, because she's also concerned about her own election.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's why I just don't see her just going out there and doing it.
She's not.
Even though okay.
She's not. But the point is, we want to establish that she has the authority, and there's a problem. But for political reasons, she's not going to use it. That's what we want to say. And what do we think about that?
I think, first, let me say good evening to everyone.
Good evening, Brian.
I think if she does move to take him out of office, it will be after the presidential elections. She won't do it before.
Okay. Okay. I would agree with that, but I don't even think she will, though. Who else? Go ahead. Brian, did you want to continue or somebody else said something?
Well, it doesn't look good because they're stepping down one by one. His whole administration is
And
giving up
so,
on him.
and when you said it doesn't look good, the question is, why are they stepping down?
Something's going on.
That,
Something smells bad in the kitchen.
that's what I'm saying. It's a sinking ship. And you don't, and again, to be in those positions, to be a commissioner, you're at the top of your game. You ain't just out of law school. You done had 2 jobs. This is a premier job. And I'm going to stay here and go down. I need to try to find me someone. I ain't at the end, but I'm at the pinnacle of my space, which means anybody that comes up in that space is not likely going to be even up to task because you don't know what's next. And those are appointed positions, which means the new person that gets elected can take you out. And now you ain't got a job because you went in. Fanta?
So in just doing a quick search, so back in May, right? The chief, hold on, where did it go?
Fire chief?
No. The corporation
Council, yeah.
Sylvia Hines Radix. She resigned because she was going at it with City Hall, and it seems that they wanted her to defend person or somehow to defend
Pearson.
person.
Pearson.
Yeah, for his sexual. So it
Yeah.
seems like there were some things definitely happen, like people leaving because they don't want to do the jobs that they're being asked to do, because are they the jobs that I'm supposed to do?
That's correct.
Well,
and that's the same point. Yes, that, and if I do this job, will I be defended? Is it illegal? Will the city attorneys protect me for doing my job? So, for example, at Bethany, the only people that are bonded are our trustees. So our insurance covers our trustees, don't cover deacons, doesn't cover members. If a member does something, they do it. But there are certain things that the trustees can't be covered from, that we say that, no, this ain't covered. You got to get your own attorney. And that gets expensive because of that. I mean, when somebody, let me be very, very clear. If they came and knocked on my door and said, I don't like nobody taking my phone. I love that means somebody died and he got out of the casket and said, I forgot my phone. I mean, but think about this. When you got to seize people's phones and records, and what happens is you can see anything. And it might not be that, but you might see something else. And that's one of the challenges of being associated with him. And I think, and as I critique him, I evaluate my own self on who I associate myself with. If you're going to be with somebody that takes advantage of children, or somebody that's a bad mouth, or somebody that is a drug addict, or somebody that's a thief, and you hang with them, then it looks like you are. And it rubs. That's why the phrase is true. Birds of a feather, they flock together. That's what we say. And so now you see the highest echelon of people like, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So I wanted to speak about the fact that he surrounded himself with folks who would be described as loyalists.
Right.
And I think that for me, the concern is that the water's so tainted that it's not even speculation. I mean, to me, on the surface, it's not even a matter of being able to see what the governor's, next move will be. I feel like we've lost our way in terms of having some level of a standard. Right. So now I feel like people just kind of respond to, as you spoke to, the feeling threatened. So it's not even about public service anymore. It's all about like, cover your blank, blank, blank. So to me, that's the other issue, because I don't know that folks were even thinking about their scope of work.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Being a loyalist, that's not the criteria for public service.
And it shouldn't be. And they were, and again, they're friends, and some of the people were living in the same household, Banks and Wright. You know, they're a couple. And like, because he put his people there. But when you say there's something in the water, I mean, when I'm just saying this is when I just want to look at the question is what's going on in New York? We had think about this. We had Governor Elliot Spitzer had to resign. Um, Governor Andrew Cuomo had to resign. New York State Senator Brian Benjamin had to resign. Representative Anthony Weiner had to resign. Attorney General Eric Schneiderman had to resign. New York State Senator Sheldon Silver had to run. And then the first Black governor of New York,
What happened to Patterson?
Patterson, he
stepped
just
away.
didn't run again.
Exactly. But
That's what happened. And so that's what the point when you see that, I mean, it's like, wow, what is it about this corruption? And so the point is that it is more likely so than it is not. Given the way New York is operating, it don't happen everywhere else. Why? What's going on in New York that this happens? And then to mask yourself in our houses. George Miles from Philadelphia, you got your people voting?
Yes, indeed, sir. Yes, indeed.
All right.
Uh,
Do you need security?
no, they know how I do. They know they gotta go vote. The
Okay.
thing is, what I want to say is, the Democrats at the time, it's bad timing when we're like at the pinnacle making moves, women making moves, our sisters making moves, and all of a sudden something like this comes. For me, coming from here, looking back into New York, and I'm saying,
What's going on?
it stinks.
Yeah.
It really stinks.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to call him out, but it's the same way when Barack got there, he had to stay squeaky clean.
What do we call him? No
you-
drama, Obama.
Right. So it's just something so bad because all the people underneath him was connected to him. Everybody's disengaging. And why? Why? Are there secrets or what? It's just, like I said, it's bad time for me looking at from here. I'm saying, what is going on? And Eric Adams, I do remember him as a transit cop out of District 4, out of 14th Street. I don't know what happened, but when you rise up, be careful because the same people you go past, you're going to see them when you're coming back down.
That is correct. And you know what, George, what you put, which makes it difficult, and I see you, Brian, I'm gonna get you right next, is that it's easy if we could demonize and make it a white person. And let's be clear, if this was de Blasio or Bloomberg, we'd be out and it'd be clear and it'd be easy for us. But because this person looks like us, now we benefit of a doubt, people. Am I exaggerating? Brian, you can respond and the rest of you all chime in.
No, you're absolutely correct. He has to be squeaky clean, or else they're going to be coming after him, finding every little thing, every I that's not dotted, every T that isn't crossed will be examined and checked out. Yep. But I wanted to ask you, correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor. Brian Benjamin, when he was charged with, he beat all his charges.
He did. He did beat his charges. Yes,
and
he did.
It was the same gentleman from the FBI that brought up Benjamin, brought up Adams.
That's correct. But he also brought charges against P. Diddy too.
Yeah, that's another story. Yes.
Okay. See that's what I'm just saying in here. You can't. I mean, their job is a prosecutor. Their job is to prosecute. And so the reason, and again, and then judges adjudicate, and then a jury decides. And let me just be, now I don't think his was thrown out because it's a whole bunch of other stuff to be able to, corruption is hard to, not only the Benjamins get thrown out, corruption is harder to prove. But when you got bribery, that's a different thing. And so corruption can take place in a lot of different ways and fashions in there. But you are absolutely right. And it destroyed Brian Benjamin. So, and that's a great response to be able to say that in that regard. But if you have a habit of forever being investigated, yeah, I love somebody said Tish James ain't being investigated, so this is not at all. But a whole pattern of being investigated, something just say, what's going on? And to still trust the process. And again, it's not necessarily targeted, but and that's what his attorney decided to say. The hardest and what's more sensational about his charges is the Turkish airline. That's what it is that he wanted upgrades. They don't talk about straw donors. That's cost the city $10 million if you can prove it. And for all what you all know, what a straw donor is, for example, I got $10,000, but I already gave $10,000 or $2,500 to his campaign. And I give you $2,500 to give under your name, but it's my money. That's what they got to prove. And the reason why you do it is because there is, for every dollar that he raises in small, New York City gives him $8. So he got $10 million that they're alleging that. Now, again, that's not sensational. As opposed to talking about somebody taking a $15,000 flight, $123,000 worth of hotels and stuff. I like to take a $15,000 flight. I see that on my phone all the time. I'm like, how do I get on Emirates? When can I go? I would love to be in a suite like that. And that's still bad. You just can't belittle it, and you don't respond saying other people have done it. See, our response is not to say that nobody's guilty. We're saying that everybody ought to be held to the same standard, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're a governor or a senator. But you can't conflate because they're different responses. And ironically, in light of what the Supreme Court said, pay attention, about to teach you all, in light of what the Supreme Court said, that if you engage in corruption in a line of your duty, then it's okay. That's what they said with Trump. So it's supposed to trickle down. That means for these legal minds to still bring charges, that means they got something more. Because on his face, one would think that's no different than Trump being excused. That's why they had to drop those charges for Trump based upon the Supreme Court ruling. And again, while we talk about civics, while we're talking about learning, while we're talking about elections having consequences, is because people were mad at Hillary Clinton for supporting, being a part of the the mass incarceration. She wasn't even in office. Her husband was, and she said the term that sociologists were using at the time about about super predators. That's what they were doing. Just in case you don't know, and whether or not you like it or not, they build prisons based upon the reading level of our children. Because if a child can't read by a certain level, they have a proclivity to go to participate in crime. And when Trump said he was coming back in, the prison stocks went back up. When Trump talked about deportation, Trump can't just deport these people. He cannot. He can detain them. If they can be detained, somebody gets to get paid by holding those bodies until they get their court date. You just can't put people on a plane and take them away. You can't. He can talk all that trash. And that's the question that you say, well, these immigrants are over here, 20 million. So what do you plan to do? And when they going to deport you? So that's the challenge. That's what I'm talking about. Again, I love what Brian said. Just the nuance to be able to say there is a give and a take. But don't conflate and say just because this is true here is true all the other times. There are differences, and you can begin to nuance when you have more information. And your information to know is that there are different standards for different people. Clarence Thomas did worse than him. But according to the community by which he sits in, the Supreme Court, they do not follow, they don't have rules. If Clarence Thomas was a federal court or a superior court or city court, he would be impeached. But they're not impeaching the Supreme Court because technically it's not, they get to enforce themselves. It's like a business owner. If he's the boss, he gets to decide it. But a boss can fire you. Reactions.
Yeah, it was interesting what you said about the Supreme Court. I guess, it's one of those things that the framers never thought about back in the day, that, that justices themselves could be corrupt and, find some kind of way to keep them in check, just in case. It's the same way as we say about a felon being able to run for president. Nobody even thought about that. I guess back then, we figured that people, if they were facing felonies, they would be too ashamed to even consider running for such an office, but not this person.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying, and that's why it's important. Like I said, we look at our class in civics, it looks at civics and then in the current events. And so what Deacon Beckwith did say is true. But back then, only people that could vote were land-owning white men, land-owning Protestants. And then it expanded. By the time it kept expanding piece by piece to 1960, think about this, 1968. I was born in 1970. 1968 was the first time in the history of the United States that everybody of adult age was able to vote. Actually, up to 21. No, they finally changed up to 18. 1968. No. Yeah, it'd have been 21 because I'm forgetting when they did the next amendment. It should be 21. And then later on, they changed it to 18. But it lowered because Gary, you driving. Somebody found out.
I'm okay. But yeah, they changed it because of the Vietnam War. I have to look up exactly what year it was.
Okay, so was that before 68 or after? That's what I
think it was after 68.
That's what I thought. I think it was in 70 something. Okay. All right. That's
during
1971.
Nixon's administration.
1971. There you go.
July 1st, Amendment 26.
There you go. Thank you. The 26th Amendment. And so therefore, 1971 or the 1972 election would have been the election that the most people were eligible to vote could vote. After that, then you started back with this new things of trying to strip people from the rolls. And that's what Republicans have been doing. And just think about this. Now, I don't agree with everything a Democrat I told you, I am an independent, but because I live in New York, and I want to participate in the primaries, I register as a Democrat, but I am an independent. And I was a former Republican, but I am an independent. And what we began to see in this, did I lose some of y'all? What'd you say, Kathleen?
A question.
Go ahead.
What made you switch from Republican to Independent to Democrat?
Well, I was Republican because I was from Kansas.
Oh, okay.
And I worked in a Republican office, and I do believe in conserving, because sometimes I do believe that Democrats can be too liberal. So typically on finances, I was conservative. On social policies, I was liberal in that regard. So basically, I was a moderate in that regard. I certainly believed in choice, and I also believed in low taxes. But I also believe people needed help. But I also believed in accountability, and so we let Republicans own the language of accountability. And just so whenever they talk about Democrats doing stuff, it's always just letting somebody off the hook. Soft on crime, not wanting to do war, giveaways, but they're doing the same thing to a different group of people. And so that was the intent. And so being in Kansas, that's where I was, where I thought. And then, but I really when I recognized my own voice, and I worked for Senator Robert James Dole. And as I began to grow up, and understand myself and my political voice, I recognized that neither party was a fit for me. And that feels good. And I changed, became an independent. I still voted in all the national elections, but then came the time when Barack Obama was running for president. And I'm in New York, and I refused not to be able to vote for him. I refused. So I didn't change my registration because New York City is a closed primary. So in some other states, they're open, which means independents can vote. Republicans can vote. You can vote for whoever you want to in an open primary, but you can't in New York State. It was closed. So I then registered as a Democrat. But like Oprah, I'm an independent. And now, is there a Republican that I like now on any level? No, because they all have been co-opted by Donald Trump. But those that run with those who ran before, oh yeah, Casey in Ohio, that's some solid, good Republicans that began to exist, and even in Westchester, that's some solid people. But now, if you ain't gonna stand up to this bigotry that this person is spewing, I can't be associated with it because of my tax line. And all I'm just telling you is that that's the line that the lie that Donald Trump is so good on the economy is just something that the Republicans have forever owned. Forever owned that they're strong on war, strong on crime, and strong on the economy. That's a lie. Those are misnomers. And Democrats haven't learned how to fully attack that back by being patriotic. I mean, I was at a protest and me and Pastor Lee were there together and we were going somewhere and they say, 5, 6, 7, 8, America was never great. I'm like, don't get me around that. It's called nuance. You got to know what you're doing. I would have never said nothing as stupid as defund the police. But I do believe in trying I got a meeting with the DA of trying to get money to do things to do things outside of policing. I believe instead of not just calling 911, that you can call another number. Because again, people get hurt by calling the police. Police have been known to escalate the problem. But saying defund the police, you ain't winning. That's all. You not gonna win. And that's where we are right now. And that's what got us in the position is that you want to be so strong instead of being strategic. Strategic means, what is my overall goal? What is my overall goal? George.
Pastor, I know you asked about the people out here in Philly who haven't voted, but I have a friend that's like, I helped him I used to work with him. We worked for the Transit Authority. And I helped him move down to Fredericksburg, Virginia. And just recently, I think 4 days ago, I talked to him. And he said something to me that like it disturbed because he says he's not going to vote. And
yeah. Well, see, here's let me tell you what they're doing. For whatever reason, there's a narrative that, let me tell you what, Trump is shrewd. He's an idiot, but he's a brilliant idiot as he's being played. But he knows how to play. And what he likes to do is seek to divide. And that's why he wants to seek to divide Hispanics from Black. Trump's number with Hispanics continues to grow and grow, and even with Blacks. But where it increases more is Black men. And that's this language of this machismo of Black men or Latino men and white men. Again, white men ain't voted Democratic since 1968. So even though Joe Biden got a whole lot of white men, more white men and more white women still voted against Joe Biden. So now the number is what's happening with the rest of America. And one of our challenges that what Donald Trump is seeking to often do is to divide Black men and Black women, and others have. I mean, let's be clear, it ain't always been a bed of roses. Phyllis Whitley and not Phyllis Whitley. Who's the queen? Somebody got hung today. That's not Phyllis Whitley. Ida B. Wells. She got into it with Frederick Douglass. Heck, Frederick Douglass and W.E. Du Bois didn't agree. And so just because we don't agree on something, they don't mean it has to be a wedge issue to separate us. And so that's this thing that is now being pushed, and the media grabs this narrative. That's why I was joking with George about, do you need security? Because there's some black men that are talking all kind of stuff in New York about not voting for Kamala and all of this stuff. You know, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. And you know what? I don't waste no energy on them because their vote in New York don't matter. I say you need to vote downstate. Vote down ballot then. But in Philadelphia, in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, I certainly want to be able to push them and try to engage them in the real reality of understanding what the electoral college is and what you're trying to say you want, you cannot achieve by herself. Nobody can achieve it by themselves. And so, George, what they're doing is that false pride of you being those of us who've been married and you mad at your spouse and now you don't want to eat and you go to bed hungry, or you got a partner, or you got a mama and a daddy and you're like, I am not eating her food, I ain't eating it, and you go to bed hungry and you just, I'm not going to do it. And that's what these men are actually saying. And some women too. Let me be clear, because it just ain't all men. But the line is, I don't like her policies. I don't think she's prepared, but I'm not voting for Donald Trump, so I'm just not going to vote. That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. That is a vote for Donald Trump. And that's the point. And your nuance has to be able to explain that. But you don't waste time with them. And lastly, watch this, George. You said something that now is very, very key. Donald Trump and these new politics are dividing families. We're dividing families over when somebody chooses to say that they are gay, or that they are a lesbian, or that they're trans. They're transgender. That, you know, like now they can't come to the house, can't come to the cookout. You can't do all this stuff. And then they forever pushing this gender to begin to divide us on student loans. And just think about somebody that's forever pushing on division instead of pushing on unity. That's scary. And they like it. I mean, and this is in my set. I'm talking about middle-class men that I play golf with to have to forever argue about the silliness of arguing about those that are transgender. And in sports. I said, do you know what small population it is? And are you aware that when they pass those laws, that they would have a principal come in and check your child's genitalia and then follow the records? I said, are you guys aware of the damage that this does to these kids? They don't care. No, I don't want my daughter. You ain't even got a daughter. You're talking about speculative about what would happen instead of dealing really. And that's the point. How does somebody's sexuality really affect you? And that's what they're pushing. Immigrants that even come to this country contribute more than they take. But that's not the narrative that is told. Every immigrant that comes in this country is not stealing. And actually, I love Christian Gillibrand is now doing a thing I didn't know. Almost 600,000 people came across the northern border illegally. We ain't talking about building a wall in Canada. See, conflation. You got to learn how to nuance and say, wait a minute, what about this? Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. That's why it's important for us to understand, because 8 o'clock, Project 25, he wants to end Justice Department independence, wants the Justice Department to work for himself, wants to cancel out LGBTQAI plus rights by being able to determine that the only type of family is a man and a woman. And you heard the vice president say, if you just a woman by yourself and just got cats, is something wrong with you. Wants to get rid of the Department of Education, wants to stop loan forgiveness, and wants to get rid of DEI. As if DEI is a bad thing. I have a PhD from Northwestern University, and it is a DEI school. I was able to do that. I applied to a program that was trying to increase African Americans in the PhD program, and I qualified. And I looked at the University of Virginia, University of Iowa, University of Chicago, and I chose the Northwestern University chose me. So I'll say that because somebody say, he said no, I didn't say that. I said they chose me. But you applied through a thing that's trying to help people. And Northwestern was better because I was there. And I'm better because I was at Northwestern. Those are the things about exposure that they wish to do. Their Project 25 is about homogenizing America back to an Eisenhower 1954 era where women knew their place. Because again, even my Kansas City Chiefs guy, the kicker, say that a woman's best job is being in the home. That's what they want. Women back in the home because women are taking the jobs. They're blaming women. They're blaming immigrants for taking their jobs, but not innovation. And then guess who's leading this? Rich men who do the Elon Musk, who's inventing this AI that's taking people's jobs. Reactions.
Also, don't forget the candidate running in Ohio, Bernie Moreno, said that women over 50, abortion is not an issue for them. They're not concerned about that as well.
Correct. That's correct.
So like you said, it continues to be nuanced. There's always different layers as it relates to the decisions and the choices that women should make concerning their bodies and their choices.
And that's what it is. It's controlling their body. And again, that's how this country was started, with white men controlling property and bodies. They controlled their white woman's body, and they controlled black bodies and Asian bodies and Latino bodies that came over. You controlled them. That was the whole thing. And hence, our theological movement is always about embodiment. That's why it's not being ashamed of your body. Your body does matter. And that's why, think about this, when they want to get rid of passing, hey, that's why you got to pass a crown law, because you're concerned about a black woman's hair. Hey, really? That can't wear locks. Remember the kid being cut? Yeah, that is the Handmaid's Tale, straight up. Kid being cut. And then I forgot, I think the principal cut the kid's locks in school. I mean, it's a mess because it's trying to create conformity. And so one of the things that I'm working with, and I'm going to introduce to us, is that when you try to think about the Eurocentric model, the Eurocentric model is conformity. The Afrocentric model is diversity. But diversity is scary because you can't control it. People are going to be different. And we are uncomfortable with difference. And I ain't just saying regular difference, just when somebody dresses different, smells different. I mean, just think about somebody who has the audacity on television to say if Kamala Harris gets elected, the White House is going to smell like curry. It's like, wow, this is true. This just think that now it's so common for us to say that. And again, it ain't just white people. You got Mark Robinson in North Carolina. And watch this. I told you Trump ain't he's an idiot, but he ain't a fool. He didn't hang around with him in North Carolina. Because this is the guy that also said, a black guy who's the lieutenant governor, who wants to say that we were better off in slavery. We were better off in slavery and in Jim Crow than we are right now. And black people can say that type of stuff because, as Clay King would say, they're on the grift. Liz was up first, Chris, and then I'll get you. Elizabeth?
Hey, I just wanted to just chime in because for me, as we're talking through the things that Project 2025 look to strip away, it seems to be grounded in privilege. And it's not privilege that's granted to us. And that to me is probably what's most disturbing. Because as you spoke about, right, the fact that we have to still teach cultural competency, the fact that we have to continue to remind people that racism is alive. It's baked into everything, right? It's baked in part of our origin. I tell y'all, you need to see Origin. I'm
Okay.
gonna pass the mic to Chris.
Okay. Christopher.
Christopher.
No, I was just calling his name. I wasn't correcting you.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, it's funny how you mentioned something about conformity. People like conformity. And I'll bring up something. It's not necessarily politically related. It's more or less sports related. And I'm gonna bring up the Yankees. Ever since the Steinbrenner family has run the Yankees, the one main rule that they have: no facial hair below the lip. That means that anybody that comes there that has a beard or something, their old team or long hair, they gotta cut it.
Yeah.
And it's like it's always some kind of debate. And I've seen debates online. It's like, that's just such an archaic rule. They need to just get rid of that. But then you got some people like, no, people like the clean cut look. The players should be looking like ball players and not barbarians.
Right. Well, see,
So it's like,
you know what? You gave a good segue. I'm looking because I'm gonna let y'all go to catch this debate, and then we can talk about this debate from your own perspectives. Is that's why you very seldom see a presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate, with facial hair. If facial hair is not encouraged, I don't think you can have it in the military. It's typically discouraged. It's rugged. But see, the reason why Jeff Vance has it, Joseph David Vance, yeah, the reason why he has it because he want to show that he's a wild person trying to tame something. He's out in the wild. That's the point when he wrote his hillbilly elegy. And again, he lived in a place and then went and talked about it and made money off of where it came from. And that's the point. Somebody living in the projects and then go and talk about you all and then get money and then don't help the projects. That's what they're doing in Ohio, and that's what Trump is doing. And so again, this was not a PSA for the Democratic Party because you all know I've talked about my Democratic mayor that I have. We're just talking about the aspect of what does it mean. And the last point, to go back to our mayor, then you have what's called an inability committee that can be convened outside of the governor. And in that, you would have the corporation council, but you can't use the corporation council because it's vacant. Then you have the city council speaker, Adrian Adams, the comptroller, but he's running for mayor, Brad Lander, and the longest serving borough president, which is Donovan Richards. So it's a mess. And so, and even if he were to resign, and I don't think he resign, I don't think he will. I think he's gonna fight this all the way to the end. But if he were to, then the city advocate would be the mayor, Jumaane Williams. But he would only be the mayor for 80 days. He had to declare an election. And when we, as Brian brought up 2 weeks ago, and if that were to happen, we got to do ranked choice, and it's not by party. Anybody can be in there if you qualify to be able to do that. So the point is, our world is in shambles, and that's why we're engaged in civics. And I want to let you know more than you know, and you can begin to ask questions. But what they want to do is sensationalize. I'm not trying to change your views on somebody's sexuality or on student loans or on foreign aid. We didn't get to talk as much about Israel and Gaza. What I want to do is give you the tools to have a conversation about what somebody can do with their body or with their child, or a conversation that our government sends money to Israel, but it can't help kids in school. Those are legitimate questions that you can engage in a conversation with. And it should not end our friendship. It should not end we can't be that polarizing that because I disagree with you, that we can't exist together. Unless you're about trying to destroy me. That's a different story. So that's what we do. But I'm certainly thankful for you all. I think we had a good time. I want to remind you again that on Sunday we're still engaged in. I believe in this political process, and you put pressure. And so we will be at the Amity Baptist Church for our public land for public good at 3 o'clock after worship. I'd like to see you in worship. Remind yourself, voting is already going on in 26 states. If you know somebody that needs to be voting, encourage them to vote. Tell them sitting out ain't an option right now. And that's is more people who didn't vote than did vote. So that's what we want to figure that out. And then in New York City, early voting begins October the 26th. But you can get your absentee ballot. If you already know you're going to be on that cruise, go on and get that absentee ballot. Let's do this. And it still matters to get in the habit of voting. So my notes, they're going to drop my notes. And you drop my whole notes in the chat so people can have them.
They will drop. I'll drop them again.
Okay, just making sure that y'all got them.
Yeah, I'll drop them again for it.
You can fact check it. I didn't make this up. Pastor was in there bad mouthing them. I didn't make these people resign.
I do want to add real quick, because I know I gotta get the facts, but you probably know. But Kamala is doing better with educated white women and white men than Hillary and Obama did, which I take that as a good sign because we need them to win.
Yeah, no, I mean you cannot. Again, that's the issue. The main reason why they're against abortion, the white population is shrinking. They're not having babies. And our country is growing by immigration. And still, the highest growing group are Latino, Latinx. That community is growing the most. And we're growing, but we're about stagnant in that regard. And so that's one of our challenges. And so what they're trying to do is to pit us against each other. That's the drama that continues to take place. They want to divide us. And so, but you're right. Ironically, it ain't the white working poor that's with us. It is wealthy white, not billionaires, but that middle class white suburbia that's in there, because technically they interact with us the most. They went to school with us. They play basketball with us, or we do things. They know us. They're our neighbors. That's the deal. But poor whites and poor blacks do not live together. Middle class whites and blacks do. Go ahead, Brian.
I just would like to say, last Wednesday, Jen Jones was on the Open Line midweek program.
Yeah.
And from a lawyer's point of view, she broke it down. She went in on all the charges. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Or listen to it? She did a fantastic job.
She did an excellent job. And she did a recap on Sunday on Open Line. Not the online, but on Sunday.
Right.
And actually, yeah, so that's what she pointed out, this aspect. And I'll footnote her with that line of breaking down, because she was in city government. And when you're talking about the deputy mayor and the commissioner level, those are lifetime aspirations. And for these people to have to resign and give them up and go where? And then who's going to come up and take that risk? She painted that picture very, very well. Absolutely.
She was fantastic. And I would encourage anyone to go listen to the podcast. It was last Wednesday, Open Line midweek program. Very good. She did a very good job.
Perfect.
And the education commissioner and this deputy got married this weekend. So therefore, if she wouldn't have to testify against either one of them have to testify against the other.
Yeah, I heard that. Yes.
Yeah, they got married on Saturday at Martha's Vineyard.
I forgot. But do y'all just see how messed? It's just, in the words of a prophet I know, it's a hot buttered mess.
And the plot thickens.
Indeed. Jerome, you didn't say nothing. Minister Williams, can you close us in prayer?
By all means, this has been very good. I didn't have to say anything.
Good stuff.
I probably would not have known what to exactly say. But Father,
we're always welcome to say something. And you're right, we got 2 ears to listen, but we value everybody. This is a safe space for us to know and learn together. We're learners. So, but I'm glad I appreciate you, and I'm glad you just still stayed on, because sometimes when we don't know, we tune out.
Right. Those 4 words: conflation, conformity, nuance, sovereignty. I'm just feasting on all of that.
Gotcha.
It's like a whole pie.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead on.
The ingredients all
Uh-huh.
need to be considered to bring some understanding out of, well, the least bit of understanding.
Gotcha.
Let us look to the Lord in prayer. Lord, we thank you. We come to you as humble as we know how. We thank you for this civics gathering with our beloved pastor. Thank you for the information of himself and others chiming in to help us to understand just a little bit better, just to, if even not understanding, just be open to what is actually taking place, and then we get a better chance of just doing what we feel that we need to do. Allow us to encourage each other, encourage others that we come in place with from time to time outside of this circle, the Bethany Baptist Church. Bless us, Father, to keep the faith, because we know through it all, Lord, this is what we are called to do. And Father, just continue to bring information to us as we need it, and continue to allow us to encourage one another. We love you, Lord. Until we meet again, in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Hope to see you tomorrow. Galatians chapter 3.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
Good night.